back. My name is Brian Rich. I'm with Little Media, Eve, and the Beacon Lounge, Beacon Fire team. We're gracious enough to put together these Do-Good dialogues, which is really just an opportunity to talk with smart and interesting people from various disciplines and various organizations about ways that we think about social change and might change how we think about social change. So this is Katie Bisbee, the CMO of DonorsChoose, which is, at least as of last week, most recently one of the most innovative organizations, period, in the country, if not the world, and not just within the social good, social impact type of space. So, nice to have you here. DonorsChoose is an extraordinary charity, and over the last, I guess, almost 15 years now, right, since 2000, has raised a tremendous amount of money in very small increments for individual teachers and classrooms to supplement whether it's supplies or school trips or whatever it is that is needed in the educational process that is not available in the budgets of schools and things like that. My question is, is that focus, that ambition of just raising the money and satisfying the obvious need, the thing that makes DonorsChoose so compelling and so successful, right? Is it the simplicity and sort of the elegance of the teacher needs something, I can provide that really is what fuels this success?
Yeah, I think so. So our model, I think what makes DonorsChoose.org, or what makes the donors feel really good about it, is the direct connection that we allow between classrooms and donors. So on our site, people can choose exactly what classroom they want to support. They can see exactly where their dollars go. And then they get to hear back from the teachers in the form of a thank you letter from the teacher, an impact report showing how money was spent, and thank you notes from the kids, and even photos of the project being done. So I really think that direct connection was certainly when Charles Best, our CEO, started it 14 years ago, like a totally revolutionary concept. And in some ways today, it's still pretty revolutionary, that people can allocate exactly where they want their funds to go and then feel a personal connection to the group that they supported.
So there isn't any evidence to suggest that the desire to support a classroom is waning. But in a hypothetical situation here, right, the expectations for impact among people who are investing time and resources in causes and charities continues to go up. So my expectation would be that I don't have to keep funding classrooms, but wouldn't it be great if that need were to go away? So why isn't DonorsChoose in the business of eliminating the need for DonorsChoose by whatever, addressing educational policy or funding or tapping into the extraordinary support that you have among political leaders and people with great means, and saying we should get off this hamster wheel of funding these individual classrooms and just close this gap period so we can move on to other potentially more pressing needs. Like, yeah. Why aren't you in that mission business as opposed to the elegant simplicity of actually providing direct support to classrooms?
Yeah, that's a great question. So our mission is to make sure teachers have what they need for their kids to learn. And when we think about our jobs, we're thinking about getting supplies into classrooms today that students don't have. So if a student doesn't have, if there's a second grade class in a really low-income area in Baltimore that doesn't have dictionaries, like, we want to get those dictionaries to those kids today, not 3 years from now. We're not an advocacy organization. We probably aren't. I would say that we don't have expertise or skills in like politicking and lobbying, and I don't think we ever will. But but it's important for us to change the system. So one big step we've taken is we've hired a data scientist, and we've completely opened up the 14 years of data on our site. Everything from every single supply a teacher has ever requested in every state across the country, and every single donation that anyone's made. We have over 1.5 million supporters, and and we can cut that data any way we want to cut it. We also have it completely open so that anybody can go on data.donorschoose.org and play with that data. And really the goal of spending all of this time exposing our data and opening up is that that will ultimately influence buyers and like procurement officials of the national government, the local, state governments, the school districts on what exactly it is that their teachers need.
So your theory of change, if you will, is we're filling the immediate need, we're keeping our fingers in the dam. Mm-hmm. And now, with the intelligence that we have, we're presumably allowing the people who should be responsible for closing that gap to close that gap, but it doesn't have to be our responsibility to do that directly.
I think that's a fair way of saying it. Yeah, I mean, like our wheelhouse is in doing what we do, and by being probably more transparent than most organizations have been, by literally just showing everyone every ounce of data we have, we think that that is a really good step. And then we also are kind of forming some new types of partnerships that I think will impact the system itself more. So for one example, we have a partnership with Google and the College Board where we're adding AP math and science classes to high poverty schools where the kids have potential. We're working with Code.org and Codecademy on encouraging teachers to teach girls to code across the US. And we're...
So you're pushing stuff back into the schools a little bit more than satisfying the need that has been identified by the individual schools.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say, yeah.
Okay. With 1.5 million donors and nearly 15 years worth of transactions, et cetera, there's presumably a lot that you have learned about the people who are participating through DonorsChoose. One of the things you mentioned already is people seem to appreciate direct connection and certainly the human relationship that essentially forms between them and the classroom teacher or students in return for the donation and the ability to execute the project. But what else have you learned about what works in terms of getting people to make these transactions, to make these commitments, to come back and do them more that everyone else would presumably benefit from as they're trying to figure out how to get people to take actions sustainably over time to support certain causes or back certain ideas?
Yeah, so one thing that is just an interesting data point as a preface to answering that question is that half of our donors give on our site because they care about public education, and the other half say they give because they care about our model and the ability to give directly. So not everyone comes to our site as a public education advocate. They might come to our site because they really care about jazz music and they want to buy a trumpet for a class, or maybe they want to support a school that was damaged in a tornado, or maybe they just care about supporting their kids' school even. So I think that really speaks to the elements of the model that I would suggest other nonprofits take a look at, which is the choice, the accountability, and the transparency.
So what I would say DonorsChoose was one of the pioneers in crowdfunding in the social good space, and maybe if you think back to 2000 overall, one of the handful of platforms that actually demonstrated and has continued to demonstrate that crowdfunding under the sort of larger umbrella of the definition works. That said, the amount of money that you have raised pales in comparison in many respects to some of the other crowdfunding platforms that are out there, and Kickstarter is sort of the obvious example and not that far from you geographically. So when you look at crowdfunding platforms, assuming you do look at other crowdfunding platforms, what do you learn from the Kickstarters and the Indiegogos of the world that is then transferable to a for-purpose effort, on the premise that maybe there is greater scale or greater opportunity available to serve more classrooms and provide more support?
Yeah, I mean, one thing that I think Kickstarter is great at is they give their project owners these amazing tools to fundraise for their projects. And I think that a lot of the folks that post projects on Kickstarter, like a lot of the artists or like the musicians are kind of in the mode of having a subscription list and promoting themselves to that list, and those people take action. And we look a lot at Kickstarters, and Etsy for that matter is another organization where a lot of their sellers are given these amazing toolkits to promote their shops to their friends and family and their networks. So we take a lot of look at those tools. It's a little tricky for us in that the teachers are the people that we're serving, so we would never want to force them to fundraise for their classrooms if they didn't want to or if they just didn't think it was the right thing to do. But we have added a whole bunch of tools that allow teachers, if they want to fundraise, to go do that. And I think that that's probably the biggest difference between an Indiegogo and a Kickstarter, which are for-profits, and an organization as a nonprofit is we can't as much rely on that. We have to rely a little bit more on the donor side, on people coming because they really care about the cause.
Makes sense. So at an event like South by, where there are all of these conversations about the ways that technology is used, or behavior is influenced, or data is tracked, what are you able to learn from these other sectors? Not just graphic. What are you able to learn from the brands? Or what are you able to hear from the people who are focused on content and television and things that in the social good space, either we don't have the sophistication or we don't have the resources often to go to those levels, but at least conceptually here you're able to tap into a lot of different expertise and a lot of different perspectives. What are you paying attention to, or what can you pull from South by that might be potentially disruptive to what DonorsChoose is trying to do and trying to continue to do even more of?
Yeah, well, I think that for us, so half of our revenue to classroom projects comes from individuals, and the other half comes from corporations. And typically when we work with companies, we're working with their marketing team and doing cause marketing partnerships, as opposed to the more traditional like philanthropic or foundation partnerships. And so for us, hearing what brands are excited about and how they're engaging their customers and how much time they're spending on social allows us to think through programs that we could create with them to show off for them like their social impact that they're having, and hopefully boost their brand with their customers.
So let me push on that one just for 1 second. I am a critic of cause marketing on the grounds that it is largely for the PR benefit of the corporation, which is not to say that it doesn't, deliver incredible funds and support and awareness and a bunch of other things to causes that are in great need, but the connection to the core business strategy and business operation of the brand is sometimes not there or not as tight. Is there an opportunity, or is there a desire from the DonorsChoose standpoint to say create a market for somehow supporting classrooms and teachers and providing the support and supplies and things like that that are needed? To have these companies actually make it a part of their strategic business imperative to ensure that that funding gap is closed, or that they provide these things, and not just to make things like the procurement process right by what the data shows it really should.
Well, I think we have a couple of case studies that might make you not be as skeptical about cause marketing as maybe you are. And just to give you one quick one from several years ago, so this data is maybe 5 or 6 years old at this point, but Crate & Barrel, since about 2006, has given DonorsChoose.org gift cards to their customers as a thank you. And they have done a great job of tracking the customers that have received the gift cards, and those customers can then go on our site and pick a project they care about locally or in a topic that they care about on Crate & Barrel's done. And Crate & Barrel found that those customers that got the cards and redeemed them spent 16% more in Crate & Barrel stores than those who didn't. So they, every year at the holidays, out of their advertising budget, bought DonorsChoose.org gift cards and sent them to different segments of customers. And I think that's a perfect, that to me is a perfect cause marketing campaign. We win because classroom projects are being supported and we're acquiring new donors who then continue to give and care about classrooms. Crate & Barrel wins because their customers feel even stronger about their affiliation with the brand. And then the customers obviously win because
They get stuff they like.
they get stuff they like.
Right. That makes sense. Before I let you go, one of the things that comes up a lot in these conversations is that the for-purpose social good conversation is not fully integrated into the full glory of South by Southwest. So we do have this extraordinary gathering of developers and creatives and investors and media and everything sort of under the sun. What would you want to ask that group, right? If you had the opportunity to put a challenge to or put a topic out in front of that diverse group of people, what is the thing that DonorsChoose needs people to think about in a way that you haven't figured it out yet, or that only this kind of mashing up of all these different perspectives and different ideas could produce something extraordinary?
Yeah, I mean, one thing that I would love to hear a lot of different perspectives on is I'd love to sit with people and explain kind of what works for us and what doesn't, and get feedback on how to allocate our time on those various things. And I'd love to get really tactical around like ROI of different marketing efforts and what all these different folks experience and how that compares to what we've experienced.
It's a great question, and it's just as a side note, it's very interesting because I think you're one of the first people in response to that question that wanted to get very tactical. But there is for you guys, there's a very practical need of limited resources, a desire to have an impact on marketing, and just sort of having like almost a therapy session of like, well, how did that work, et cetera, et cetera. So I think it's a great question. It's a very interesting question. All right, Katie Bisbee, DonorsChoose, thank you very much.
Thank you so much.